Yo, I'm not I'm not saying that I'm like I have a saying. I'm not the smartest person in the world. I'm just not the dumbest. Okay. I'm not saying that because all of our brains work different. I need people to realize that um the way you're going to interpret things is not going to be the same as the way I interpret things. Um we all gather information differently. All right. So here's the thing. There's been so much crap going on lately in humanity for, I'd say, the last 70, 80 years that it has gotten to the point to where they're just ready to dumb everybody out. They're just ready to dumb y'all out. The whole Indian African talk. I'm here to tell people the reason that you guys are getting so much pushback is because those are Boule um, uh, employees. Those are charlatans, bro. They even if the ones of today didn't sign the deal of the past, they were raised by the ones who signed the deal. So they're going to always come with this crap. Me, I keep telling people there's a reason that Pan Africans don't step into the arena of masonry and sorcery and the spell casting, and they'll say all that's fake, even though they're in a spell. These motherfuckers literally are talking about they're a proud people, kings and queens, but they haven't stopped all their people from using any form of government assistance. It's like they haven't regulated their own neighborhoods, but they keep trying to tell everybody about uh, the original beginning of the years in April. It's like they have all this information, but it can't benefit them. Why? Because they're boule. It will never benefit them. It will never fucking work. The whole point of it is for them to just talk, just run their mouth. All right. What everybody else is doing is making it to the point to where they can see that society has dumbed down, and now they can use that as an excuse. Like, think about it. They're telling you it's global warming. You're in denial of that. Okay, but they have literally made the social construct dumb and low cognitive, so where it doesn't matter what you guys think. They're looking at it from the big brush. They're like, well, society is at its lowest degree right now. Even Ben Shapiro was talking about how the American cognitive uh, level is low. It's the lowest it's ever been. So that means people that are talking about Pan African stuff, people that are talking about global warming, people that are talking about religions, the way that they talk about them, the zombie version, all that stuff is proving that you guys are incorrect. You guys are incorrect. How do we know? Because your cognitive level is getting lower. You guys have all these rights for trans and women's rights, and the black woman is striving in the graduation field and all that. Okay, so why is the cognitive level lower? Because you guys are full of shit. All of you. You know what I'm saying? Anybody that's with the TV thing, you're full of crap. Global warming is not real. You cannot do a complete 180 in a 10-year span. They had been talking about the ice age since the 60s. They had been saying we're going into an ice age. Okay. Then they turn around and talk about global warming in 89. In 77, we literally seen fucking the guy from Star Trek making making a newscast about, oh, we're going into an ice age. Okay, that was in 77. Then we get to 89. So in 12 years, all of a sudden, all this information they had been talking about since the 60s, now it all turns around and now it's all global warming. Everything's burning up. Okay, that's letting you know that it's bullcrap. Nobody can make how can you be that wrong unless you're meaning to be wrong? Same thing with the vax. Like, how could you push something in 8 months that quick for it to not work unless you didn't plan for it to work at all? All right, so how does that all fit in? Well, we're about to listen to something that we had all talked about before, but now it makes perfect sense why they're going to do it. We're going to talk about the brain implants, the chips, and the reason why they're doing it. The reason they're doing it is because people don't believe in global warming. But I've already made a video proving why people are skeptical about it. It's always been a front. It's a front. They're trying to get rid of fossil fuels for wind power, but nobody else is doing that. It doesn't matter what these global elitists are telling us. China and Russia are not getting rid of their coal. They're not getting rid of their fuel. They're not. It doesn't matter what these global elites say. Only the Western world is following these fools. But at the same time, they have been destroying us the whole time. So let's get into it. This is a 20-minute video, and we're going to watch the whole thing. I'm going to be chopping it down as we go, but we're going to watch the whole thing. And shout out to Facts Matter. This is a cool show off of that's the name of the station, Facts Matter. But this is a cool show because this guy is like unbiased, and he really he talks about the stuff that the local news is not talking about, but it's all relevant. Like from the Epstein to the vax to the market, you know what I'm saying, the viability of your dollar. He talks about all that stuff. But let's listen to him inform us about what is going on in the politics of Western society and these global elitists.
It's once again everyone's favorite time of the year. The World Economic Forum is currently holding their annual meeting over in Davos, Switzerland. This is, of course, the meeting wherein the world's elites come together on both their private jets and their giant motorcades in order to mingle, in order to plan out the future, and also, ironically, in order to lay the groundwork for reducing the world's carbon footprint. And the beauty of this particular event, of the World Economic Forum's annual meeting, is that this is where very often the quiet part is said out loud. That's because even though at this event, most of the real discussions still happen behind closed doors, well, the public-facing speeches and the panel discussions that are had, well, they do still allow common plebes like you and me to get a small glimpse into what the global elites, who hold many of the levers of power within our societies, are planning for the future. Now, in previous years, we've gotten quite a few interesting tidbits on what these plans look like. Things like tracking the carbon footprint of each individual person using their credit card, placing little microchips inside of medicine in order to track whether it took it or not in order to...
See, all this tracking stuff that people thought was like conspiracy theories, they're not so far-fetched anymore. Now, here's another weird thing. When it came to this tracking and these type of conversations, usually people would go biblical with it and be like, yeah, it's the mark of the beast and stuff like that. I have told people a long time ago, and I'm gonna continue saying this, it doesn't make the Bible real. What it does is it makes people smart. They're able to see a story and use it in real time. Kind of like the Illuminati cards and how they had a NASA one. I'll show you guys that. Before this video. How they had a NASA card and they had a flat Earth card. Now, the thing that was interesting is the NASA card, you can see it's like a camera. It's like, if it's fake, okay, that's cool. But then at the same time, they have a flat Earth card. So were they trying to say that the Earth is flat and the NASA moon landing is not real? Or are they trying to say that all of it is propaganda that they're going to use on the people? Flat Earth, NASA spaceship, they're going to use all of that. Like, people are going to argue. They're going to make that argument where people are going to be like, oh, they never really landed on the moon, and oh, the Earth is really flat, or oh, it's not. It's pandemonium. It's controversy. This is what they do to make you guys seem low leveled, to where they can initiate chips and monitors, you know what I'm saying, and people will go for it, not even realizing you're giving up your Constitution. The whole point of these elitists was to get rid of that American Constitution. That is the only thing stopping them. I'm serious. The only reason you guys aren't chipped today, you know what I mean, because you guys can talk all the crap you want, the only reason you're not chipped today is because of that damn Constitution. Other than that, you'd have been screwed a long time ago. That also makes you know that there are people already chipped on Earth. Let's keep going.
To increase compliance, implanting smartphones into people's bodies, these are the types of innovative ideas that are floated each year at the World Economic Forum. And this year, in 2023, well, it appears that things are going in the very same direction, evidenced by Mr. Klaus Schwab himself, the founder and chairman of the World Economic Forum.
Can you imagine that in 10 years when we are sitting here, we have an implant in our brains, and I can immediately feel, because you all will have implants, I can, and we measure your brain waves, and I can immediately tell you how the people react, or I can feel it imaginable.
Furthermore, Sir John Kerry giving us his thoughts on what the event can accomplish. Take a listen.
And when you stop and think about it, it's pretty extraordinary that we, select group of human beings, because of whatever touched us at some point in our lives, are able to sit in a room and come together and actually talk about saving the planet. I mean, it's so almost extraterrestrial.
And of course, we can't forget Mr. Tony Blair, the former Prime Minister of Britain, who just a few days ago was talking about the need to track whether people were vaccinated or not well into the future. Take a listen.
You need to know who's been vaccinated and who hasn't been. Some of the vaccines that will come on down the line will be multiple. There'll be multiple shots. So you've got to have, for reasons to do with the healthcare more generally, but certainly for a pandemic or for vaccines, you've got to have a proper digital infrastructure. And many countries don't have that. In fact, most countries don't have that.
And so, with all that in mind, one of the main topics that will be discussed at this year's World Economic Forum is the topic of ESG, which stands for...
See, that's the thing. See, the pandemic, they use that as like an energy gap to get people to not only give up their rights, but to start something that they were already planning to do. This is how you know it was planned. This is how you know the 2014 thing, Hillary supposed to be winning, Trump being a fluke president because nobody expected him to win. Like, he wasn't part of it. You can tell it was a fluke. You know, it was a fly in the ointment. It was a monkey in the wrench. Like, they did not expect that man to win. And that's why the whole presidency of him, they had to talk about he's in cahoots with the Russians. They had to make sure there was no loyalty there. That way, when they got their second chance with this guy that's in right now, and all the holy hell you see what's going on, it's a circus show. You know what I'm saying? It's a circus show. They weren't even at their, defending their border lines. They're just paying for people, that are like sneaking in. It's like, this is unprecedented. This has never happened. Why do you think this is happening? Let's continue.
For environmental, social, and corporate governance. And while a sympathetic interpretation of ESG is that it forces companies to be more inclusive, more diverse, and perhaps for environmental, one of the main topics that will be discussed at this year's World Economic Forum is the topic of ESG, which stands for environmental, social, and corporate governance. And while a sympathetic interpretation of ESG is that it forces companies to be more inclusive, more diverse, and perhaps more environmentally friendly, well, they're looking, which is that it's actually a way for these Davos individuals who share in this ideology to force their agenda upon other nations. They use the business sector when they can't achieve their aims through normal political channels. Now, I myself, probably just like many of you watching this video, I'm still waiting for my invitation to the World Economic Forum to arrive by mail. I'm sure it's just running a bit late. And so in lieu of that, today we're joined by Mr. Kevin Stocklin. He's a financial reporter for the Epoch Times, as well as a film producer, with his most recent project being the Shadow State documentary. And he broke down for us the World Economic Forum's agenda for this year, how it connects to ESG, and what it actually means in practical terms for you and me. And so smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, and take a listen.
Exactly. So one of the hallmarks of the ESG movement is the ability to use corporations to do what the government cannot legally do. So I can give you some examples of this. It is illegal, for example, for the US government to create a database of firearms owners in the United States. Well, they've been able to get MasterCard and Visa and American Express to set up merchant category codes to track purchases. So in this way, they're able to follow any purchases that Americans might make in a gun shop or a sporting goods store that sells guns. You are not allowed to censor speech. That's something the federal government can't do, but they're able to get Twitter to do it. And all of that scandal is now coming out to light, how the FBI may well have colluded with Twitter to censor political speech leading up to the 2020 election campaign. So there are a number of ways that they've been able to use corporations to do what the government is prohibited from doing according to our Constitution.
Yeah, and you mentioned the courts and sort of American traditional values, which is something I'm kind of really keeping front of mind as I watched the WEF this year, because, for instance, you had the I believe it was a member of the European Parliament from Czechia, from the Czech Republic, coming out and saying something along the lines of, well, the US is also going to implement anti-hate speech laws in the near future. And when I was watching that, I'm thinking, well, either she knows something I don't, or she doesn't understand the American legal system, because we have a very strong First Amendment protections. And so with this ESG movement, do you believe that it sort of squares with the US Constitution and the laws we have in the books and the sort of the ethos of the American way? Or is it because they're using the business sector rather than politics? It sort of doesn't matter because businesses, don't necessarily have to abide by the Constitution in the same way that, let's say, the government does.
I would say that the United States and the US Constitution is by far the biggest problem for the WEF and the ESG movement. It's not just that we guarantee rights such as free speech and things like that. It is also that we have laws against a lot of that the ESG.
See, they get the people with emotions. That's how they get us. They get us through emotions. They tell you a story that they know you want to hear. Oh, we're doing this for the people, or we care about you, or we know what happened, in your struggle for your people. Like we're down for you. But for years, you haven't got any result from it. Okay, well, in that same breath, the system that you talk bad about, that you're just not understanding, what you're dealing with, the system that you talk bad about, in the end is actually the thing that's saving us. That is what's saving us. We don't believe in America, and you're not down for America, and you're some free person, whether you're claiming the whole slave Africa thing, or you're just saying America is a corrupt system, but you're coming from a dilapidated system over here, so that doesn't make any sense. See, it starts to show itself, guys. It starts to show that there are agents out here. They're of all creeds, shapes, sizes, colors. It's like their agenda was to make the people hate the system, so much so that they could use propaganda to overtop the system. But wait a minute, without the American Constitution, without the US Constitution, they try to put chips in you. they had already planned on doing sneak chips through your medicine, to make sure you're taking your pills. Is what they're claiming. It's like, why would they want to chip you so bad? These are the elites. You guys like Louis Vuitton and you guys kick it with these celebrities, or you love these celebrities. Okay, that's who they look up to, the elites. Okay, they're the ones trying to chip you. You notice how when the pandemic first came out, the main people trying to push it on you were celebrities. Why? Because they work for them. Who else was trying to do it? Banks, hospitals. Oh, you got to be, and then to even come in here. Oh, if you don't have your mask, who's doing it? It's the establishment. So if they're holding the strings to the government, because that's what he's saying, he's like, they're sneaking it through business, because the business law is not the same as the Constitution. You can kind of maneuver through certain things the Constitution says due to business. Maybe the Constitution is talking about a certain amount of, numbers that can only go to a certain location. Okay, well, if you're building buildings, you can add more room to add more numbers. So these are the little stipulations that a business can bypass through the Constitution. But in doing that, we have let a bunch of weasels in business, and what they're doing is they're trying to have they said somebody knocked down the Georgia Guidestones, but in a sense, the Guidestones were talking about that. That's what they were saying. They were talking about getting a certain amount of people, in line, and then killing all the rest. So this is a very deep discussion, seeing how people are coming out with historical truths that nobody has ever knew in these day and times. And it just so happens that at the same time, they would be trying to chip people, maybe because you guys are getting a little too smart for your britches. Let's continue.
Movement is trying to do. For example, we have an antitrust law that says it is illegal for companies to collude against other companies or other industries. What's a better example of corporate collusion than getting together once a year in Davos and signing a pledge that you're going to take out the oil and gas industry?
Mm-hmm.
We have civil rights laws that says that a lot of the components of the social justice part of ESG are illegal. You cannot discriminate. You cannot set quotas against people on the basis of race or gender or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So these laws are huge problems. In addition, our whole system of federalism, which gives rights to the states and limits the power of the federal government, is an enormous problem for the WEF, because they try to leverage national governments to force these policies on people, whether it's bans on internal combustion engines or bans on hate speech and this sort of a thing. So right now, I think when they look at their number one problem, it's the United States and our traditions and our legal system and our Constitution.
All right, the sponsor of today's episode is a phenomenal company called AMAC. That's AMAC, and it stands for the first is the money saving benefit, because as a member of AMAC's website, the second benefit is that you get exclusive access to the AMAC magazine, which will be delivered directly to your doorstep, and it contains
the one that
in this
getting
country. So head on over to amac.us/back.
I ain't getting paid from AMAC.
I'll also throw a link down
Shout out to
in the
AMAC. Yo,
description
anybody hate me?
below. For the audience members who either have never heard of it before or maybe have just on the periphery heard this concept of ESG, can you sort of explain what it is from sort of a general 50,000 view perspective?
Sure. ESG is two things. It's an ideology and it's an industry. So as an ideology, it's environmental, social governance. It's an umbrella term for climate change, social justice, racial justice. They even include things like gun control and abortion rights. So that's the ideology. As an industry, it has been able to amass about $55 trillion worth of assets through asset management. And they are able to, with kind of Wall Street at the center, using these assets to control most of the corporate world in America today, and to get them in line with this agenda.
And based on what you just described, it seems to be that the ESG agenda is perfectly in line with what Klaus Schwab has been describing as the World Economic Forum's agenda of sort of shifting away from a shareholder type of capitalism to what he describes as a stakeholder type of capitalism. So I know on the surface that might even sound good. Can you sort of maybe speak to someone who is sympathetic to that view and thinks, hey, that actually sounds like a good idea? Can you sort of play it out? Like, what would that look like in practice if this was actually implemented?
Yeah, absolutely. So ESG is the business component of this ideology, and the idea of stakeholder capitalism. Traditionally, companies they're owned by shareholders, and they're supposed to generate maximum returns for shareholders. They do this by creating superior products or superior services that people want. What the ESG movement has done is basically said, well, we can leverage these companies and we can co-opt them to following an ideology outside of serving shareholders. So stakeholders do include shareholders, apparently, but more importantly, they include things like the community and the environment and the earth. And so the standards that used to be applied to CEOs that were monetary and financial standards, quantitative standards about your performance and profitability and increasing customers and all these sort of things, that can take a back seat now to your ESG rating as a company, and how well you are performing under social justice goals, what you're doing to save the environment. And we have a whole industry that's now arisen, the whole ESG rating industry that rates companies. It even rates countries. It rates US states and according to how compliant they are with the ESG ideology. So it's redirecting the whole purpose of companies and our economy towards following ideology versus serving customers.
Wow.
Now, it's like a mob right now. It's like a whole gang right now in the world. And what they want you to do is they want you to be down with they supposedly we are the world. You know what I'm saying? Supposedly we are the world is what they claim. But they're forcing stuff on you that don't work. They're not investigating things where stuff came from that we know where it came from. They're telling you a bunch of they're like using your emotions, but they're trying to make it like standards, like it has to be. You know what I'm saying? Oh, your company, like it doesn't matter how much money you guys make. Are you an environmental risk? Are you at the Hug the Tree event? You know, do you guys have the green Earth sticker that all of us have? Like, you're not a part of the fancy club. You're not a part of the big fancy club. But in doing that, these same people are tied with trying to basically roboticize humans. You know, they're trying to put something in you. We're not even done. We're halfway through, but trust me. It's, man, listen.
In a practical sense, so you said it rates them. Is there an actual like number figure, like from 0 to 100, that you actually kind of fall on? Is that the case?
There are quite a few different rating agencies that have gotten into this business, but yeah, is as with general corporate ratings, you AAA, single A, triple B, or good, needs improvement. There's a whole spectrum, but they basically are coming up with criteria to rate companies according to how compliant they are. One of the goals of the WEF during this session is to really codify that and get that to be uniform among all the rating agencies. And that makes it easier for them to track who's actually complying.
And what is the incentive of these giant institutions like BlackRock to actually comply and go ahead and care about the ESG ratings? Because I can imagine they either believe themselves in this ideology and therefore they're implementing it, or is it like pressure from the media or from other people in the business world, putting pressure on them to implement ESG and or to care about it? Is that how it works?
It's kind of both at the same time. So there are the true believers, and then there are the people that have just kind of been bought off. So there are a number of people whose jobs now depend on this industry. It's the rating agencies, it's the lawyers, it's the consultants, it's the accountants that are all focusing on ESG, and the asset managers. Don't forget that they earn higher fees on ESG funds than they earn on, say, index funds, which are passive, unmanaged funds. So there's certainly an economic interest. And then there are the true believers who go along with this as well. But BlackRock is a fascinating case because there is a revolving door between BlackRock and the Biden administration. People move from BlackRock to the Biden administration. They take senior positions. They come out of the Biden administration. The spokesperson for BlackRock right now was straight out of the Biden administration, just started working for BlackRock a few months ago. When we did our COVID bailouts, who was in charge of the distribution of some of those funds? It was BlackRock. And BlackRock just announced a new partnership with Ukraine to handle some of the funds that are being sent there. So there is this very much of a devil's bargain that's now going on between Wall Street and the federal government. And I think what the federal government is letting these banks know is that if you comply, if you play ball, if you go along with this agenda and help us, then we're going to be easier on you. And we can see that as well with the tech companies, right? All the actions that Twitter and Facebook and YouTube are taking to censor people.
See, but what part of the government are we talking about? Like, see, that's the whole thing. People keep talking about the same wings on the bird, and it's like, no, bro. No, they're only censoring one side. You guys are seeing this in your one life. You're seeing it in real time. So you know what side is being censored and what side is not. You can deny, you can be in your feelings, you can claim that you know God, but God would give you sight. You would see. You would have a brain. You would see it. So he's telling you that they are helping people, whether with money or power or exposure, whatever, if you side with their agenda. The system is doing it, but it's one-sided. It's the Democrats, okay? And he's like, you see the proof by just the Twitter files. You're seeing what Facebook did, what YouTube did by censoring people. Shoot, I lost my page. It's like we're seeing what they're doing firsthand, and anybody who knows me and been around long enough, they'll know exactly what I'm saying. Like, well, that is true because they even knocked your page, bro, and you were big against them. So it is kind of coming out that it is possible that this shit has been kind of foretold already. It's already been foretold, but I'm telling people the reason that is because they're using the story. They're using the story. They're literally reading the book and playing it out in real time. That's how they're able to that's how people are able to talk about this hologram Jesus that people are supposed to see. It's like, think, guys, think who's the one in control of all the electronics right now? The big tech company. Okay, big tech. Okay, who's the one that's censoring you guys? Like, you got to put it together. But now they're talking about chips in a different way. You're hearing it at their forums. You're hearing them talk about it because that's what the dude said.
Don't go along with the government agenda. To censor people who don't go along with the government agenda. They are now granted these monopoly positions, and the government's willing to look the other way when they engage in monopolistic behavior.
Can you give us an example of what a company or a corporation can do to increase their ESG score?
Sure. So we could take a look at the Disney Corporation, for example. Disney Corporation decided they were going to go to war with the state of Florida over a parents' rights bill. They decided that they were going to introduce more sexualized content into their media that is apparently designed for families and children. You could look at Delta Airlines. You could look at Coca-Cola and Major League Baseball fighting the state of Georgia's law that requires voter ID.
Now, people would say that's not of major power play, but it is because you're lying to Black people. You're literally having them listen to people on TV talking about Black people don't have IDs in 2021, 22, 23. That's insulting. That's insulting. You know what I'm saying? Black people buying blunts, cars, real estate, chains. They got videos. Females, they got their own hair salon, their own beauty supply, that they create on their own. It's like all different types of stuff. You're telling me black people in this day and time don't have an ID, and it's because of this law that we need the Democrats to speak for black people that already have IDs? That's what he's saying. He's like, and look who's backing that up. Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is not your friend, black people. The Major League Baseball is not your friend, black people. All these companies that sided with the Democrats, they're not your friends. They're helping the system keep you not only stupid, but not comprehending the spit in your face. So he's saying, he's like, these are the elitists, bro. These are them. When we talk about the black elites, when we talk about the boule, when I'm talking about the connection between black and white on the chessboard, they're both on the fucking board. It's like the Shriner, yeah, that's some old African Moor shit, but wait a minute. They told in these schools that the fucking white people, you know, just took the Africans. They never put out there in truth that, no, the Africans sold them. Africans sold them for whiskey and guns, and like they sold them people. They ain't no fucking back to Africa, you're a prisoner of war. That's a lie. That's a lie. You was sold like straight up. Okay, so that means the African and the white dude have always been doing business. You know, you're only a customer when you're walking in the presence of Africans. Sell fucking slaves all night long. All night long. It's like, yes, they were doing that. Okay. We're not talking about the regular smuggler white people of the day, you know, like the ones we're listening to. They're not a part of it, but the ones who are, this is how it works. They play this game on emotions, knowing that at the end of the day, they're already mapping out your destruction. Why? Because you should know. It's not about what you believe. And that's the main people that get played, people that believe in stuff. No, you have to know. And that's what we're doing right now, showing you the know-how so you know what's up.
Now, none of this has anything to do with the business or flying customers around or serving them fuzzy drinks. All of it has to do with complying with their ESG scores. You're looking at banks that are taking a firearms industry. PayPal cannot be used anymore to purchase guns or ammunition. None of this has anything to do with profitability. It has everything to do with following the WEF and the ESG agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kevin, are you saying that those firms, the rating firms, they look at, let's say, a company like Disney, and they take into account, well, on the on the bill that was passing through the state legislature in Florida, they fought back against it, and therefore will increase their ESG score because they were in compliance with that sort of part of the agenda. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so that's the social justice component of ESG, and they will certainly get high marks for that.
Mm-hmm. So high marks, like an actual mark, like an 8 out of 10 or something like that, or an A+ or an A-.
Exactly. So that's what the scores are looking at is what are you doing to further social justice and racial justice, et cetera? What are you doing to reduce carbon footprints? And what are you doing to, for example, set quotas on hiring or on board members? How many of them how many of the seats are reserved for minorities or women and this sort of thing? That's all part of the ESG agenda.
From sort of a more practical perspective, let's say you own a small window installation company in Ohio, or you're a farmer in Minnesota, or you own a deli in New York. How will this ESG agenda affect you if you are just a small business owner?
Sure. Well, there's two ways that would affect you. The one is specifically, so for example, one of the things that the Biden administration has done to enforce ESG in the United States, the Securities Exchange Commission is now requiring that all listed companies report their CO2 emissions, and not only of their own company, but of their customers and their suppliers. Well, if you are Nestle, you have several 100,000 farmers that supply you for your products. So now all of these farmers are going to have to produce audited statements annually of their CO2 emissions, as well as their plans to reduce them. This is not something that your average farmer is able to afford. The second way that this movement affects people is what they pay. So we are all paying huge increases for fuel and for food because of the WEF and the ESG's war on the fossil fuel industry. So we've created an artificial shortage. It's not that there's any shortage of gasoline or natural gas in the world. It's that we've created an artificial shortage on extraction.
See? See, the oil's in the freaking ground. The oil's in the ground. Your gas should have never had to go up. That makes no sense. You're walking on gas. So this is all a brain fart. Like, this is all a mind warp. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, yo, they're making a fake problem. They know there's oil in the ground. How the hell are you going to ask Saudi Arabia for some oil? They know you have it in your ground. That makes no sense. Why do you think the Saudis, like, basically didn't even answer the phone for Joe Biden? They're like, bro, what are you, stupid? You think we're dumb? We're not dumb. We know what you're doing. We know you, like, oh, appreciate the weaponry in Afghanistan, though. Like, think about it. Just look at it for what it is. He's like, bro, this doesn't have to be. They don't have to stop oil. They have plenty of oil. It's right there. They know China is still pushing oil out the ground. They know that China's oil is dirtier. They know that Russian oil is dirtier. They don't stop them. They can't stop them. They talk about, Putin hit the line to Europe. No, it turned out they did it. So this is all set up, like they're setting it up themselves. But who? This is the elites, the ones who want to put the chip in your fucking head. Excuse my language. Yo, let's continue. This is bugged out. Yo, this is bugged out, yo.
Acting and refining because of this movement. It's driven prices through the roof, and it's gone through the entire economy. It affects manufacturing, transportation. Farmers rely on diesel fuel. They also rely on fertilizer. More than 3 billion people on this earth rely on synthetic fertilizer for food. That's a derivative of natural gas. So this is a period in the last couple of years when the effects of these policies and this agenda have hit home for everyone.
Wow. So is it the case that, let's say you're a farmer and you, let's say, grow potatoes in Idaho that you then want to sell to a big corporation like, let's say, McDonald's, right? And so since McDonald's is publicly traded, they need to now, with this new SEC regulation, have the CO2 numbers for not only themselves, but all their different partners, all the different businesses that they do business with. Meaning that if you're a farmer who sells to McDonald's, even though you want nothing to do with this agenda, now you are being forced to do this reporting. Otherwise, you lose one of your biggest clients, McDonald's. Is that sort of how it works?
That's correct. And what we're seeing is that, the large corporate farms don't have so much of a problem with this. They can afford to do this, but the small family farms are really struggling. At the same time, we're seeing investment funds buy up farmland throughout the United States. And who is the biggest owner of farmland in the United States today? It's Bill Gates through a number of his
you see how they put it all together? You see how they put it all together for us? Put it all together with stuff I've said, but putting it all together. Now you see why he bought up all those farms. He bought up all those farms so he could control the meat in the harvesters. So when they come to these big corporations, say they don't want to give you no meat because of your agenda, but they won't have no choice. See, they made an old cartoon about this where the guy was like, oh, go to the union, and they stamped his head with like this number. And that was like the end of it. He couldn't do anything. But this is very, very interesting. You can see the loop, and where is it? It's a celebrity loop. And now you know why on the media, why they don't talk about the Epstein thing and why they're making jokes about it and all different type stuff. Now you know, because they want it on the hush. They don't want nobody to see the plays. But I'm showing you the plays. I'm showing you because we're learning together. We're literally doing this together, guys. And you can see it firsthand. This is the thing about the game that my other page got knocked for. This is why I got knocked because it's stuff that I be talking about. But it's getting real. It's getting real out here, and you can deny it all you want. You can hate. You can say people don't make no sense. But when somebody's been talking about this and then all the dots are lining up and you can see it happening right in front of your face, it's time to get interested. You know what I mean? Maybe maybe we should be cool off trying to look cool and just be down and kick it with the homies and stuff. Maybe, maybe it's time for something else, because if your farms are owned by the same people who have this agenda about putting a chip in your head, and you're being barn blasted, you know what I'm saying, on stuff like The View, CNN, all the celebrities, everybody. It's like the zombie effect. Look, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to. And when you see what's really going on in the background, because you remember what Epstein, what Bill Gates said about Epstein. Well, he's dead, so you got to be more careful. It's a wild game,
shell companies and other organizations. So it looks like a concerted effort to put family farmers out of business. As you well know as well, there's all sorts of legislation coming out in the Netherlands to really crack down on animal farming and try to force cattle farmers out of business. We saw Sri Lanka try to ban synthetic fertilizers, and we saw the devastating effects that it had on those people.
Yeah. Kevin, let me ask you, there seems to be a pushback against ESG as more people are sort of...
What's he saying? Run that back. Run that back. What's he saying about Sri Lanka? You know what he's saying. Let's run it back, though.
waking up to what it actually is. Kevin, let me ask you, there seems to be...
And synthetic fertilizers. We saw Sri Lanka try to ban synthetic fertilizers, and we saw the devastating effects that it had.
That's why Sri Lanka fell. Sri Lanka fell because they got cool with them damn leftists, them Democrats. And when they went over there, they wanted to make synthetic grass. They wanted to give them fake land. And they went against it. They banned it. Democrats took all that money out because they had already swiped the people from their money already. Same thing Bill Clinton did to Haiti. See, Haiti had economic power. It was rice. They had it. Bill Clinton did a jiggy ass deal, them off forever. Go look it up. Don't agree with me. Don't believe me. Look it up. Sri Lanka fell. They're back on. Why? Because of the globalists. They came back with their money, but I bet you now they have that fake grass. Don't get in no business with no damn socialist, yo. Don't get in no business with no communists. They bad news.
Out on those people.
Yeah. Kevin, let me ask you, there seems to be a pushback against ESG as more people are sort of waking up to what it actually is. Your documentary came out, educated a lot of people. There was a great interview on Joe Rogan that went viral, that educated a lot of people on it. And more states are now starting to actually fight back against corporations and funds that have ESG as one of their components. But within the World Economic Forum, are they actually taking that criticism to heart? Are they maybe softening some of their pushes, or are they getting even more aggressive and trying to push things through before, let's say, more states fight back?
The strategy this year seems to be doubling down to try to, the theme of this year's WEF is cooperation in a fragmented world. And I think what that means is trying to get everybody back on board with this agenda and regroup. But there is no effort whatsoever to back off on these policies. In fact, they've identified climate change as the #1 threat to the Earth over the next 10 years. And so what they're trying to do is get everybody to really double down on taking out the fossil fuel industry and moving towards wind and solar.
Wow. And this ESG agenda is sort of the vehicle that they're using to make that happen.
Very much so. Now, it'll be interesting because, as you said, there is a tremendous amount of pushback against ESG. They say that this is the new version of CRT, that people, suddenly have learned what it is. They don't like it, and they're rebelling against it. And one of the themes of the WEF is why is there all this dissent? We must stop this dissent, all these different opinions in the world. We don't like this. ESG is not going away. There's too many vested interests in it, but I could see in 2023 there being a rebranding of it. And just like the WEF suddenly said, oh, the Great Reset is nothing that we ever mentioned, even though they mentioned it 2 years ago. That was one of their themes. I think we may see people.
Everybody's talking about that. Everybody's talking about the Great Reset, the Great Reset. Everybody's talking about the CERN stuff. Everybody's rolling with them, not realizing it's all a fraud. Like, I cannot wait till we're done. Like, I'm gonna show you. It's all fake, bro. It's all fake, bro. The stuff that they did with the civil rights in space, all that shit collided, bro, to make them be able to weasel right under your nose. You couldn't even see it. All the science that's developing here is developing here, but all that out of space. Oh, it came from Mars, bruh. Let them run their show. Has watch.
Saying ESG is, we're not doing that anymore. But I think it's just going to be a rebranding of the same policies.
Now, if you'd like to check out Kevin's awesome documentary, The Shadow State, which goes much, much, much deeper into exposing, you can say, this ESG agenda, well, you can find it over on Epic TV, our awesome no censorship video platform. That is, by the way, the same video platform that is notably not endorsed by the World Economic Forum. We're still waiting for their endorsement letter.
Yo. One more time, though. One more time, this part. One more time.
Increase compliance, implanting smartphones into things like carbon footprint. Now, in previous years, we've gotten quite a few interesting tidbits on what these plans look like. Things like tracking the carbon footprint of each individual person using their credit card, placing little microchips inside of medicine in order to track whether a patient took it or not in order to increase compliance, implanting smartphones into people's bodies. These are the types of innovative ideas that are floated each year at the World Economic Forum. And this year, in 2023, well, it appears that things are going in the very same direction, evidenced by Mr. Klaus Schwab himself, the founder and chairman of the World Economic Forum.
Can you imagine that in 10 years when we are sitting here, we have an implant in our brains, and I can immediately feel, because you all will have implants, and we measure your brain waves, and I can immediately tell you how the people react, or I can feel how the people react to your answers. Is it imaginable?
Now, why the hell would we be doing that? Why? Why would you even think something like that? What the hell would you need that done for? That don't make no damn sense, do it? Yo, and shout out to Facts Matter, man. So, real quick, man. It's all in y'all fucking head, man. They made it all up. You know what I'm saying? You got to realize there's a reason all these discussions is now coming out. You know, let me show y'all something. You show y'all something about this game that they got. Old ass game, too. It's so weird. It's like nobody can really front. Once you see this, and a lot of people have seen it, but once you see it, it's like, bruh, this shit is set up like a motherfucker, bruh. This shit is set up like a motherfucker. You got, you know what I'm saying? You got epidemics, you know what I'm saying? You got the things that they've already been moved. All right, okay, buzz it. You got the flat earthers. Bro, this is in 95 in NASA. See, it's fake. They ain't go to the moon. See, it's like a fake setup. So it's like, hold up. If y'all talking the same jazz today that they had been put in a game, a dude named Dave something, but it's like, if he had been put this in a game, how would he know about all these speculations? And they say this game was originally made in the 70s and re-brought back in the 90s. It was like 95, they re-brought him back. But whether you don't believe it was the 70s, if you just believe it was the 90s, it's like, how would you have that? Because nowadays you got people like Bro Sanchez and all these different people, and everybody's out there doing, flat Earth and government conspiracies and all this different stuff. But it's like, if there was a game years ago that already showed flat earthers were going to come out, you know what I'm saying? You're going to have people like that. You're going to have people that say, NASA is fake. And it's like, okay, if that's true, all right, well, what about this one? What about the quarantine? What about the epidemic? What about terrorist nuke? What about terrorist nuke? And people say that the building had bombs in it already. So yeah, okay, they saying nuke, whatever, but just keep 100 with you. I'm not saying that there's not a point to why they're calling the earth flat. I don't believe the earth is flat like we're thinking. I think they're calling it flat because how they've gridded it out, the way that they have the grid, it's flat to them because they can walk the skies. They have these planes. They have all these different equipment. You know what I mean? That's why they're calling it that. But that doesn't mean that the earth is necessarily flat. And then as far as the space program, if y'all want to say that's fake, then you really messing up, because it's like, okay, so why would they put you on that mission? And why would the whole world be involved, like the UN? Why would you have shit like that? I've been said it. They changed the names in the 40s. In the 40s, all this weird shit comes out. CIA, fucking FBI in the 40s and the 50s. Okay. CERN comes out in the 50s. The Civil Rights Movement comes out in the 50s. It's like in the 40s, the UN is created. In the 40s, they change Hindustan to India. It's like you can see all of it right there in your face. And people are like, well, what's the whole point? That's where the whole Indian, African arguing comes in. That's where that's at. And I'm telling you, that makes more sense than what you guys keep regurgitating over and over about, people falling out the sky or try to understand zodiac, when they're literally buying up all the fucking land and they're trying to indoctrinate the brains and chip them and control you guys, and nobody's seeing it. You like, what are you guys doing? It's not a damn conspiracy, motherfucker. It's live in your face. Excuse my language, but we have to get in order, like real shit. Like, we got to get in order. I'm talking about out here, the street cats, because these motherfuckers got us arguing about dudes getting beat up in gyms and, laughing at women and worried about, relationships. And no, motherfucker, y'all better get it in gear, because you see that boy Andrew Tate gone. You see, they denied his appeal. Why they throw that motherfucker out? He was throwing up the signs and everything in the car. He was down with him. Why they throw him under the roof? Got rid of that boy. Why? Shit. You're doing too much. You're letting out too much heat right now. What was his shit involved with? Sex trafficking. That's a bad move. They don't like that right now, because they still got the Epstein fucking, excuse my language. They still got the clients list. They know what problems they got. They don't need that stuff around them right now. 20,000 kids disappeared at the border. They don't need that right now. There's a lot of stuff that's going right under your nose. Shoot, they got my girl Amanda from Nickelodeon. She out there butt naked on the streets, walking like insane. Well, look what they doing to these people, yo. Look what they doing to these people. Raymond Simone turned gay. It's like Beautiful Sister turned gay. Look at this stuff. Dwayne Wade's son. Look at this stuff. Look at what's going on. Look at everywhere. Look at it everywhere. Look at shoot. Taking little white kids to drag shows, dances and stuff. Got drag reading books to these little 4-year-olds. Like, look what's going on, y'all. Hello. Stuff's crazy, man. Just wanted y'all to get a feel of what is really happening out here right now. Shoot. Peace and love, man. Goes.